Good evening, everyone. It is with great pleasure that I welcome you all to another insightful session of the Road to Ignite Leadership Talk series. I am Sharin Jivendra and I will be your moderator for today's session. We are honored to have an exceptional guest with us this evening, a true visionary in the fields of digital innovation and entrepreneurship. Ladies and gentlemen, it's none other than Mr. Dhanika Perera, founder of Helakaru and Pay Here, and the CEO of Bhasha Lanka. His contributions have revolutionized the digital landscape of Sri Lanka, and today we have the opportunity to gain valuable insights from his expertise. Now, to officially commence today's session, I invite Let's Talk Finance Vice Chair Sachini to deliver the welcome address. Over to you, Sachini.
Thank you, Sharon. Good evening, everyone. It's an absolute honor to welcome you all to the fifth session of the Road to Ignite Leadership Talk series organized by the IEEE Let's Talk. Let's Talk is a national project under the IEEE and Professional Sri Lanka, mainly focusing on the development of the soft skills. Under the soft skills, we identify the leadership is one of the most important quality for a young professional to develop. So, Road to Ignite Leadership Talk series is a platform dedicated to fostering the entrepreneurship and the leadership. Through this session, we aim to empower the individual to break their barriers, embrace new perspectives, and drive meaningful changes. For today's session, we are honored to welcome our esteemed guest speaker, Mr. Dhanika Perera, the CEO of the Bhasha Lanka Private Limited and the founder of the Sri Lankan software products Helakuru, Pay Here, and the Helapay. Sir, your remarkable journey as an innovator and the leader is truly inspiring, and we are honored to learn from your experience today. Along with that, I would like to welcome all the executive committee members, volunteers, and the participants who have joined with us today. With that, let's dive into an insightful and the inspiring session. Stay engaged, ask the question, and make most out of this valuable opportunity. Now, let me hand over our session to our moderator, Sharon, to take us forward. Thank you and enjoy the event.
Thank you, Sachini. Now, let us warmly welcome our esteemed guest, Mr. Dhanika Perera, to share his insight with us. Over to you, sir.
Hi, good evening to all of you. So first of all, I would like to thank IEEE Young Professionals team for inviting me to deliver a session to speak to you all on this topic. So even though actually your topic is towards leadership, now I actually became a leader through a different path, right? That is actually not following a traditional path after my graduation from the university, but actually choosing to follow a different path, which is actually the entrepreneurial path, right? So today you recognize me as a leader because of actually I followed that kind of a different path. So what I thought to share with you actually about this concept of entrepreneurship, right? Because it's also a great way to become a great leader. So that having this idea about what is entrepreneurship and what is an entrepreneurial mindset will open up your mind to see new paths in your life rather than following the same traditional path. Okay. So by today, I have been able to innovate and introduce several products to the market, to the country, and impact a whole lot of people because of this thing, which is entrepreneurship. So to start with, if you think about what is entrepreneurship, right? Now, in general, there is a misconception of entrepreneurship as well, Now, අපේ එදිනෙදා ජීවිතේ අපි ගොඩක් වෙලාට මාධ්‍යවලුත් මේ ගැටලුව වෙනවා. Normally, I mean, to whom we actually call as an entrepreneur most of the time in our day-to-day life, generally, even for someone who start and run a business, right? Maybe a small shop, we call him as an entrepreneur, right? ව්‍යවසායකයෙක් කියලා මාධ්‍ය වලින් ගොඩක් වෙලාට අඳුනනවා සාමාන්‍ය බිස්නස් එකක් කරන කෙනෙක්ව පවා, right? But there is a huge difference between business and entrepreneurship, right? Huge difference between a businessman and an entrepreneur, right? So it's very important to get to know what is this entrepreneurship really means, right? And what is actually the difference between these two, right? So entrepreneurship is actually a mindset, right? අපි කියනවා මානසිකත්වයක් කියලා, right? You know, I mean, for different kind of jobs, sometimes you need knowledge, you need skills, you need attitudes, right? But for entrepreneurship, in addition to all of them, you need actually a mindset, right? And that mindset actually should be there to challenge the status quo, right? Now, when I say like this, some of you may think, what is actually status quo, right? The status quo is actually the current state of something. We called the current state of something as a status quo. යම් දෙයක පවතින තත්වයට අපි කියනවා status quo එකක් කියලා, right? If I take few examples, now these are some status quos at present, right? If you think about transport, how today, how people fulfill the need of transport, how people fulfill the need of transport, it's through motor vehicles, right? Car වෙන්න පුළුවන්, bus වෙන්න පුළුවන්, van වෙන්න පුළුවන්, it's through motor vehicles. So the current status quo of transport is actually motor vehicles, right? If you think about light, ආලෝකය කියන දේ ගත්තොත්, right? How people fulfill the need of light, right? It's through light bulbs, okay? And if you think about communication, how people fulfill the need of communication, nowadays, it's actually through smartphones, right? Everyone uses an Apple or an Android, right? But if you think about the previous status quos of same things, right? මේ දේවල් වලම කලින් පැවති තත්ත්වයන් අපි හිතලා බැලුවොත්, right? Now, before the motor vehicle come into the picture, right, introduced to the world, how people fulfill the need of transport, it's through this, right? Postcards. ලංකාවේ ගත්තොත් එහෙම ගොන් කරත්ත නේ අපේ තිබ්බේ, right? And if you think about light, how people fulfill the need of light before the light bulb come into the picture, it's through fire, right? මිනිස්සු දැනගෙන හිටපු එකම දේ ආලෝකය සපුර ගන්න ගින්දර විතරයි, right? And fire actually may have been evolved with time from how it was invented, and then නේ සමහර කට්ටිය කුළු අත්තක් පත්තු කරගන්න නැති, ගිනි මැලයක් ගාගන්න නැති, ලාම්පුවක් පත්තු කරගන්න නැති, ඉටිපන්දමක් පත්තු කරගන්න නැති, right? So likewise, there can be different forms of fire, but people knew only about fire as a way of fulfilling the need of light, right? Okay. And the third example, before actually smartphones come into the picture, how people fulfill the need of communication, it's through this, right? Feature phones, right? Maybe calls or SMS, right? But today, are we anymore using calls or SMS? No, right? Most of the time we use our smartphones, and most of the time we use chat and instant messaging services for our communication needs, right? In later call like a gun, right? But if you can think, now these previous status quos has entirely changed now, right? So there is a question, comes, who actually challenged those status quos and introduced this new status quos, which we discussed before, right? It's actually none other than the people in history, right? අතීතයේ හිටපු මිනිස්සුම තමයි මේ පැවති තත්ත්වයන් වෙනස් කරලා අද පවතින තත්ත්වයන් හඳුන්වා දීලා තියෙන්නේ. Okay. So what I was discussing, entrepreneurship is actually a mindset to do this kind of changes in the status quo, right? පවතින තත්ත්වයන් වෙනස් කරන්න අවශ්‍ය මානසිකත්වයක් තමයි ව්‍යවසායකත්වය, entrepreneurship කියලා කියන්නේ, right? Okay. Now, next we will discuss how actually we can challenge the status quo. කොහොමද අපි මේ status quo එකට challenge කරන්නේ, right? Now this is actually a session I do mostly physically in universities, right? So since we are connected virtually today, I can't do this activity physically, but I would like to ask you to do this personally, right? If you have a paper or a pencil, I would like to do this activity with you, little activity with you. If you don't have anything, just imagine, right? Hitaganna. If I give you 1 minute and ask you to draw a fish, what kind of a thing that would you draw, right? If you have a paper or a paper and a pen, just do it yourself right now. I'll give you 1 minute. Otherwise, you can imagine. ඉතින් හිතාගන්න මොන වගේ ඇස් දෙක පොඩ්ඩක් පියාගෙන හිතන්න පුළුවන්, right? What kind of thing you would draw? Because I have also drawn one. So I want to see, I mean, you have to self-evaluate yourself to what extent that you would draw the fish similar to mine, right? පොඩ්ඩක් ඉතින් හිතාගන්න. නැත්තම් කොලයක් පැනක් තියනවා නම් you can do this, right? Okay. I think now you may have either drawn or either imagined how would you draw, right? So then you can now self-evaluate yourself, right? Now I'm sure many of you, right? Many of you started drawing a fish or imagine drawing a fish like this, right? And continue it like this, right? Okay. Now I'm sure most of you, right? Because when I do this activity, it's the same case, so it should be same to you as well. So most of you may have drawn or imagined drawing a fish like this or somewhat similar to this, right? ඔගලට ඔගලන් ඇඳපු එක ගැන හෝ imagine කරපු එක ගැන හිතා ගන්න පුළුවන්, right? Now with this, the මම කොහොමද ඔගොල්ලෝ අදින එකම ඇන්දේ, right? Because this is actually a common thing for all of us. So I have to ask you 3 questions. You can actually answer them yourself. The first question is, now just remember, who actually taught you to draw a fish like this, right? Who? It's actually your preschool teacher, right? And the second question, now what is actually the age that we actually learn to draw a fish like this? Most probably 5 years, 4 years, or 6 years, right? And the third question I ask from you, what is your age now? Right? I hope all of you are in your 20s, right? So why is this? Now, since even though actually you learn to draw a fish like this during your, preschool age, in year 4, 5, or 6, now right now your age is in 20s, still you actually, if someone tells you to draw a fish, you draw it like this, right? Now this thing, we call it as a box, right? අපි මේකට කියනවා box එකක් කියලා. Where this box is in? This is actually in our own mindset. අපේ හිත ඇතුළෙම තමයි මේ box එක තියෙන්නේ, right? So there are so many boxes like this in our mind. Maybe put by our parents, put by our teachers, our friends, right? Maybe from the society, maybe from the political parties, right? Maybe from we ourselves. So when we actually think about something, right? When we are given a problem or we are given a question, most of the time we tend to think about them within those boxes in our mind, right? මේ මනසේ දාගෙන ඉන්න රාමු ඇතුලේ ඉඳලම තමයි ගොඩක් වෙලාවට අපි ප්‍රශ්න වලට විසඳුම් හොයන්න බලන්නේ, right? So if you are to have an entrepreneurial mindset, you have to get rid of this, right? Because is actually fish like this? No, right? There can be different kind of fish, different shape of fish. එකෙක් විදිහ පාළු ඉන්නවා, right? So if we are to develop an entrepreneurial mindset, we should actually be able to think out of the box, right? Now this is actually the box we are talking about in this phrase, right? I'm sure you may have seen this line, you may have seen this sentence many times in your life, right? Through social media or any other. But today, you should have identified or you should have understood what is this box really is, right? This box is nothing actually in their outside, but this box is actually within us. So if we are to challenge a status quo, පවතින තත්වයක් වෙනස් කරලා අලුත් තත්වයකට අඳුන්වලා දෙන්න නම් we have to think out of these boxes in our mind, right? මේ හිත ඇතුලේ තියෙන මේ box වලින් එහාට හිතන්න ඕන, right? Now if you did like that, you may have drawn a fish like this or like this, right? Or like this. Okay, so how you can challenge the status quo? You always have to think out of the box, right? So I ask you to draw another little activity, right? But you don't have to do this. Now, if I ask you to draw a mouse, how would you probably draw? Isella maluwa benda wage, how would you probably draw a mouse? Let me since you know the story now, you may actually try different kind of mouse, drawing different kind of mouse. But if I gave this activity first, you would probably draw a mouse something like this, right? But there was a man in history who actually drew a mouse like this, right? Who is this? You all know, it's Mickey Mouse, right? So what is the difference between these two? This is within the box thinking, and this is out of the box thinking, okay? And that man was Walt Disney. You know, today, Disney is one of the largest software or animation companies in the world, right? So all of these people, which I actually got examples before, right? All of these people did the same thing, right? To challenge these status quos. They thought out of the box. They always thought out of the box theory, right? Henry Ford කියනවා එයාගේ කතාවේ people ask me faster horses. People didn't ask me motor vehicles, but people ask me faster horses. Why is that? Now, people with a normal mindset always actually expects an advancement in an existing solution, right? තියෙන දෙයක යම්කිසි advancement එකක් තමයි විතරයි normal mindset එකක් තියෙන අය හැමතිස්සෙම බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ, right? Now, if you think about Thomas Alva Edison, now how many times he failed when he actually, invent the light bulb? You know the story, right? Why is that? Why is that? Now just imagine his era, his time, right? Pota manasiන් යන්නේ අතීතයට, right? Now there's no light at all, no light bulbs at all, right? So when the darkness comes, everyone either get a candle, either get a lamp, සමහර අය හුළුවත්තක් පත්තු කරගන්න ඇති, ගිනි මැලයක් ගහගන්න ඇති. Everyone actually use some kind of a fire to fulfill the need of light. So in that kind of a situation, this man believes, no, there can be a different solution for this, right? There can be a different solution for the problem of light, for the need of light, right? He may done so many experiments, right? Fail, right? So when it comes to failures, so what kind of failures that he may have faced, right? Now this is not something like Gana Kadala right? It's actually related to electronics that you know it very, very well, right? Cable dala, kambi dala, elements dala. There may be have fires, right? There may be have blasts, right? As his failures. Just imagine what kind of failures that 999 is have had happened, right? So when that happens, how would others call him, right? අනිත් අය මොනවා කියන්නේ නැද්ද මේ මිනිස්සයා මේ අමෝම ගින්දරෙන් ඒ අවශ්‍යතාවය සපුර ගන්නකොට මේ එක මිනිස්සෙක් විතරක් හිතනවා නෑ මේකට වෙනත් විසඳුමක් තියෙන්න පුළුවන්. There can be a different solution and he experiment this and that අරෙන් පුපුරනවා මෙහෙන් ගිනි ගන්නවා, right? මිනිස්සු කියන්නේ මෙයා පිස්සෙක් කියලා නේ, right? Right? And the third story, Steve Jobs, what's his story? You don't have to go much back in the history, just about 5-10 years, right? Now, when Steve Jobs actually introduced the iPhone to the world, what was the most popular phone brand in the world? It was called BlackBerry, right? You may have heard it, but it's no longer there, right? So BlackBerry was so popular. BlackBerry was actually a phone with the full keyboard in hard keys. Sampurna keyboard එකම තිබ්බ keys විදියට, right? So it was actually the most demanded phone at that time, from Barack Obama to all the government officials and high profiles. Everyone actually used BlackBerry as the prestige phone. So in that kind of situation, this man thinks, no, this is not going to be the future. I want a phone with just one button, right? I want to simplify all of them, and I want a phone with just one button. When the world's most demand is actually for a phone with all the keys, right? All the buttons. This man believes, no, there can be a different way to do this, right? And that's how actually he introduced iPhone with just one button here, right? At the bottom. Right now, even that button is no longer there in iPhones, right? And what happened? The entire world changed right? Entire world changed from feature phones to smartphones. Apple introduced it, and Google also followed the same. And right now, BlackBerry is no longer there, right? So all of these people thought out of the box. They didn't actually stuck in, the existing solutions, existing way of solving problems. මේ ප්‍රශ්නෙට මේක විතරමයි විසඳුම කියලා හිතාගෙන හිටියා නම් they will never be able to find a new solution for the same problem, right? ගින්දර විතරමයි මේක සපුර ගන්න තියෙන්නේ කියලා හිතුවනම් he will never actually come up with the light bulb, right? Right? And feature phones, calls, SMS විතරමයි sannivedanayata තියෙන්නේ කියලා හිතුවනම් he will never come up with a smartphone, concept of a smartphone, right? Or competing with all these odds, right? Okay. Now, let's move on to the local examples, right? Now, some of you, right? Some of you may think, now when I take 3 examples from other countries, world examples, okay, this is not for us, kila, right? But we Sri Lankans can think out of the box, kila, hitanna puluwa. Because actually, it's something that we actually as Sri Lankans normally have, no? So most of the thing are bෑ දොස්තර හොඳ හිතේගේ අර චව් චව් වගේනේ අපි ගොඩක් වෙලාට හිතන්නේ, right? So it's actually a pessimistic mindset, right? අපි always actually we see what we look at. So if you always see the dark side, always look at the dark side, right? You will only see the impossibilities, negativities, right? Impracticalities, all the negative stuff. But if you actually start look at the bright side, you will start seeing positivities, right? And possibilities, right? මේක මෙහෙම බැරි වුණත් මෙහෙම කරොත් කරන්න පුළුවන්, right? You start things how to do this, right? Not to do this, right? Okay. Now, for those kind of people, a man in Sri Lankan history gives a great example, and his name was Dhanika Perera, and his problem domain was something interesting: coconut scraping, right? Organica. Now, if you remember how our grandmothers, Achila Silai Gawala Kohumda Polgave, now they had a tool like this, right? So you have to sit down and scrape the coconut from this. And this man actually seeing this man saw a huge problem in this tool, right? What is it? Now, this has only one blade, and you have to sit down and move the coconut in one way and again take it back, right? Again, take it back. And one movement is actually productive. The other movement is actually a waste, right? So when this man actually noticed this man came up with an idea. Okay, what if we use 3 blades instead of 1 blade here? මේ එක තලේ වෙනකොට තල 3ක් දැම්මොත් මොකද? ඒක තමයි යාට ආපු idea, right? And it's actually there is a saying ජනවාරේ එන කතාවක් ඇත්තට පුරුද්දක් නැහැ that when he got this idea, he goes to his wife. එයාගේ හාමිනේට ගිහිල්ලා කිව්වලු හාමිනේ මේ අපි මේ එක තලේ වෙනකොට තල 3ක් දැම්මොත් මොකද? Right? So හාමිනේ ඇහුවලු මොකක්ද දන්නේද? හාමිනේ ඇහුවලු, so when you put 3 blades, right? තල 3ක් දැම්මම පොල් බෑ දාන්නේ මොකක් අස්සේද කියලා. Right? It makes sense now because Harmony is actually a person with a normal mindset. So she thought having 3 blades is like one like this and another one on top of it and another one on top of it, right? මෙහෙම උඩින් උඩට 3ක් දැම්මොත් මේ වගේ blades, can you actually put the coconut here? No, right? Right. But the thing is, did this man thought about it like that? He thought about it like this, right? Now this is actually 3 blades like this, right? But is it actually placed as Harmony thought? No, right? It's actually placed a very creative way, in a vertical way, right? 3 blades අද ගෙදර නම් ඉන්නේ නැත්තම් ගෙදර ගියාම පොඩ්ඩක් හිරමනේ පොඩ්ඩක් අරගෙන බලන්න, right? It's actually 3 blades like this, right? 3 blades, but it's actually positioned or placed in a vertical direction. මේ පැත්තට එකයි, මෙහෙම එකයි, මෙහෙම එකයි, right? But when actually he did this, when actually he used 3 blades here, another problem came. Another problem arose. What is that? Now, when you place 3 blades like this, can you can you actually scrape the coconut anymore in that previous movement? Right? The කලින් කරපු movement එකේම පුළුවන්ද පොල් බෑ ගන්න? No, right? So then he actually even changed the movement of coconut scraping. පොල් ගන්න දිශානදී චලනයත් සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම වෙනස් කරා. Right? And that is actually how today we enjoy or use, right? Enjoy කියන්න පුළුවන්ද දන්නේ. Use, right? Coconut scraping like this. We don't have to sit anymore. We can scrape it just by having a rotational movement, right? So what is the difference? This was actually the status quo before, and just with a creative idea, identifying a problem and coming up with the out of the box, coming up with a creative idea, due to his out of the box thinking, he could actually challenge the status quo and introduce a new status quo. Now what have happened? We are no longer using this tool anymore. Even not only in Sri Lanka, coconut milk is actually used mostly in South Asian countries for food, right? In all these countries, this tool is no longer used, but they have all adapted to this way of scraping the coconut, right? And some companies have actually made some advancement of this tool as well, but still you need one hand, right? එක අතක් ඕනේ නැහැ, rotation එක automate කරලා තියෙනවා, but still you need the other hand to hold the coconut, right? Those are advancement of existing solutions, right? But what this man did is actually completely changing the status quo, right? So if I share our experiences, right? So my first problem domain that I worked on is digital Sinhala writing, right? So what was the status quo before? It's like this, right? So we as Sri Lankans didn't have a way to write Sinhala in our own characters. So what we had to use in our age, අපි university යන කාලේ, right? We had to use this way of communicating in Sinhala, right? Typing Sinhala through English characters, by using English characters, right? It is very cumbersome even to type and I mean, ඊටත් වඩා අමාරුයි කියවන්න, right? So by identifying this as a problem, and also due to a passion that I had to Sinhala, I came up with this little innovation, right? Helakuru at that time initially as a keyboard input, and right now what has happened, the entire status quo has been changed, right? So right now you hardly see something written like this in Sinhala, right? If you go to your Facebook timeline or any of the digital content, it's mostly written in our own Sinhala Unicode or in English, right? So the background story is, now, as I mentioned, the only thing that I had to come this journey is a passion. I had a unique passion. Now, I was actually interested in software, IT from my childhood, so that actually I did A-levels I did A-levels in mathematics stream. But the unique passion that I had was actually about the Sinhala fonts, right? Sinhala, how actually these fonts appear on a digital screen, how actually they render, how actually they store, how a font is being created. So that was actually my very passionate area, right? So because of that passion, even for my school project, A-level karna kaale, even for my school project, I actually developed a Sinhala software about human body, right? So this is actually the very first software product that I developed by my own, right? Programming languages ගැන software engineering ගැන මුකුත් දන්නේ නැති කාලේ just because of that passion through self-learned animation software, I actually developed this, and even I could get a Young Computer Scientist 2007 Silver Award for this little piece of software, my first creation. So because of that passion that I had, I even after coming to the University of Moratuwa, right, I followed actually working on the same passion, continued working on the same passion. So as a result, when I had to do an individual project in third year, I decide to do a project relevant to, again, Sinhala, right? So at that time, Android was very new to Sri Lanka. So not even to write Sinhala, but even it was not possible to read Sinhala on Android, right? Initially. So I identified that, and also I had another background. I was a Sinhala blogger. At that time, there was a very nice blogging community, Sinhala blogging community at that time, right? Everyone writes their own Sinhala blogs, and others go and comment on there. Likewise, so with that background and the problem that I identified, I thought of, giving the Sinhala reading capability for the mobiles, right? Android. But even though I wanted to do it in OS level, for a 6-month project, it was not feasible. So that I ended up with developing a web browser, which is similar to Chrome and Firefox, right? Which actually gives you the Sinhala reading capability on any web content, right? So that is actually said browser. After I developed it for Sinhala, I extended its language support to Tamil as well, because I can read and write Tamil a little bit. Can't understand even now, but know the alphabet, right? So that's why it became set browser, Sinhala English Tamil trilingual browser for Android, right? And luckily, it got actually popular in India as well, because I developed it for Tamil also, right? And then I got a South Asian award for this innovation, for this product, my university project, right? And as a result, I got a market demand also. One of the telco companies in Sri Lanka, which was Etisalat, offered me a business opportunity to commercialize this product, right? And to make it available for all the Etisalat users, right? And as a result, that's where I accidentally convert myself from an engineer to an entrepreneur, and I start my own company and do that deal with Etisalat, right? And then we actually continuously continuously start to work on the same passion, right? And Helakuru born as a result of that. Now with set browser, I gave the Sinhala reading capability to mobiles, Sinhala reading capability to Android. And when I gave it, and when I actually launched that product, it was very much, embraced by that blogging community, Sinhala blogging community. And then the demand came from themselves. Okay, now we can read Sinhala on mobiles. Now we need to write Sinhala also, right? And that is actually the idea behind Helakuru. Even though Android phones were not much popular at that time because of the affordability factor and all that, I envisioned definitely this will be the future, right? තව අවුරුදු 5කින් 10කින් මුළු ලංකාවේම smartphones කියන එක ඒ දවස්වල මම envision කරා, right? So that I solved it before anyone else, right? And because of that, actually, I could build a successful company, successful brand. And when the competition comes, Gboard, Samsung keyboard, global players like Sinhala support Helakuru has been established as a single input brand, right? So that even today, when a solutions tiburat, Minisu, Helakuru pavichi karana as a single input tool, right? And right now, it's actually the most downloaded app in the country. More than 16 million downloads, make a product outdated. 16 million downloads and about 4 million active users, right? Monthly active users we have as the largest digital audience in the country, right? And the second problem domain was actually online payments in the country. Now, this was actually a problem relevant not to the, you know, every people, common man. This was actually a problem relevant to the businesses in the country. Now, I felt this problem when I start a business with Telakuru and going on. Now, the problem was people in the country or businesses in the country do not have a proper way to accept their customer payments online, right? It was only the bank payment gateways existed, which was not accessible, not affordable at all. So this was the status quo. Everyone was waiting for a international company, PayPal, to come to Sri Lanka to solve this problem, right? If you remember, it was even be a election promise at every previous elections, right? PayPal support Lanka, they don't care, right? Inward remittance support. We can pay through PayPal even now, even before, but we can't accept payments through PayPal yet. Right? So, as in this kind of a status quo, I thought, why can't we do something for this, something to solve this, right? We won't be able to match PayPal 100%, but at least we can actually uh, fulfill this need for many businesses in the country. And what happened? We actually partnered with banks in the country, telcos in the country, and successfully launched Pay Here as a aggregated payment gateway platform, accessible and affordable, right? For a startup, අපි startup එකක් වෙලා ඉන්නකොට අපිටවත් අතරම bank payment gateway එකක් ගන්න පුළුවන්කම තිබෙන්නේ නැහැ. It was not affordable even for us, right? So we introduced actually a business model, a pricing model, right? Pay Here Lite, Plus and Premium, which actually suits for any kind of business. Startup එකක් new business එකකට උනත් use කරන්න පුළුවන්. Even though you are an SME, you can use Pay Here Plus. Startups can use Pay Here Lite, and large corporate can use Pay Here Premium, right? So we did a business model innovation there and introduced it to the market. So as a result, again, this is outdated. More than 20 billion digital payments we have been able to facilitate for local businesses as of now, right? 20 billion rupees of payments, right? More than 6,000 local businesses are now using Pay Here to accept their customer payments online. And we have been able to now become the market leader in payment gateway industry in the country as well, right? And the recent one, HelaPay, I'll just skip it since the time is going on. Now what we were discussing, right? Entrepreneurship is actually a mindset needed to challenge the status quo, right? මේ පවතින තත්ත්වය වෙනස් කරන්න අවශ්‍ය මානසිකත්වයක් තමයි entrepreneurial mindset එකක් කියන්නේ, right? And how you can do it? You have to think out of the box, right? එකම problem එකට එකම විසඳුමයි තියෙන කියලා හිතන්න නැතුව you have to always actually think out of the box and come up with new solutions for the same problems, right? මිනිසුන්ගේ අවශ්‍යතාවය එකමයි. People's needs are same, right? But how people actually fulfill those needs is changing continuously, right? Right. අපි අවශ්‍යතා ඉෂ්ට කරගන්න විදිය හැමතිස්සෙම වෙනස් වෙනවා ටෙක්නොලොජි එකත් එක්ක ලෝකෙ ඉස්සරහට යනකොට it actually evolves in a very rapid phase, right? Now you as university students, you may have not how you do your assignments right now, right? Now you may never have even imagine, right? This is to do your assignments, right? Because of the advancement of generative AI in the last couple of years, right? Many stuff has been changed, right? How we get done, right? right? So what you have to take home, always you have to keep in your mind that best is always yet to come, right? What we entertain today, they are not actually the best to solve that problem, right? So if so, the best is always yet to come, and it's up to us to come up with that best from our entrepreneurial mindset, right? Out of the box thinking, right? Because සමහරලාට අලුත් ප්‍රොඩක්ට් එකක් වෙන්න ඕනේ නෑ, right? ඔයා ජොබ් එකකට ගිහිල්ලා රැකියාවක් කරනකොට when you actually go for a job and do your job, you don't have to follow the same way that everyone else did, right? You have to always come up with new ways of doing the same thing, right? Solving the same problem, and that is actually entrepreneurial thinking, right? So if you have to do this, we need few things. Now, Albert Einstein say, we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. Right? අපි ප්‍රශ්න ගොඩනගා ගන්නකොට හිතපු විදිහටම හිතලා කවදාවත් අපිට බෑ ප්‍රශ්න වලට විසඳුම් සොයන්න. Right? So what we have to do, we have to think new. අලුතෙන් හිතන්න. I already told that, right? මේ අපේ ඔළුව ඇතුලේ තියෙන boxes වලින් එහාට, beyond these boxes, we have to think new for the same problem, but how to think new. That's how actually you can get new ideas, new solutions, right? So it's actually very difficult, not easy, right? When you actually follow a different path other than the others, right, there are always challenges comes. So you have to be dare to be different, right? Even as a leader, when you actually take the lead, when all others follow, when you actually take the lead, it's actually a difficult path, right? It's actually a difficult role to play, right? So you have to be dare to be different, right? So when you follow that kind of a different path, people will call you many things. Now, this is actually a quote from Steve Jobs in his voice.
Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. About the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things, push the human race forward. While some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
Right? So what he says, when you actually, think out of the box and always actually go a different path, right? People will call you many things. Rapi kataune ne, Thomas Alva Edison, right? People may have called him a crazy one, right? When he actually tries so many times, when everyone else actually fulfill the need of light through, fire, right? Right? So those, even when we actually take the leadership and actually, raise our voice against, all the odds, people will call us that, right? Crazy ones kya hai, misfits kya hai, rebels kya hai, troublemakers kya hai, right? But what Steve Jobs says here, even though they say so, people who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones who do, right? මේ ලෝකෙ වෙනස් කරන්න පුළුවන් කියලා හිතන්න තරම් පිස්සුවක් තියෙන මිනිස්සුන්ටම තමයි මේ ලෝකෙ අතර වෙනස් කරන්න පුළුවන්, right? Okay, so the last slide, why actually we challenge the status quo? Now, if I mind map you what we discussed today, I told you that entrepreneurship is a mindset, right? So this entrepreneurial mindset is actually they are to challenge the status quo. මේ පවතින තත්ත්වය වෙනස් කරන්න, පවතින තත්ත්වයට අභියෝග කරන්න අවශ්‍ය මානසිකත්වයක්, right? And we discuss how we can do this, right? We have to think out of the box, and we discuss few examples of how people in other countries, people in here have challenged the status quo. So lastly, why actually we challenge status quo? As leaders, as entrepreneurs, as professionals, why actually we always need to challenge the status quo, right? So when we look at this, we can see what has been accomplished by challenging the status quo. අතීතයේ හිටපු මිනිස්සු මේ status quo එකට challenge කිරීම නිසා මොනවාද අද ඇති වෙලා තියෙන දේවල්, right? So we don't have to discuss anything new. So all these examples that I took during this session, right, are results of someone in history challenging the status quo. අතීතයේ හිටපු කවුරුම හරි කෙනෙක් මේ status quo එක challenge කිරීම නිසා අත්වෙච්ච දේවල් තමයි අපි අද වෙනකොට මේ ඔක්කොම අත්විඳින්නේ, right? Everything, right? Now even actually even this man didn't actually commercialize the motor vehicle, right? දැන් මේ session එක ඉවරලා මට office එකේ එළියට බය යන්න වෙන්නේ කොහමද, right? Through a horse cart, right? If this man actually didn't come up with the light bulb, right, we still have to use fire, right? So likewise, if you think about any of the products or services that you use in your day-to-day life to make your life easier, to make your life convenient, right, to uplift your life, right? So all of those things are results of someone in history challenging the previous status quo and introduce this current status quo, right? So it's up to us to challenge these current status quos and introduce new status quos, right? දැන් මෙතන කතා වුණේ entrepreneurial නිසා products ගැන, but this is also same for services or the processes, right? So if you go for a job, you actually most of the time you will be a part of a process, right? So this mindset can be applied for any place, anything, right? You don't have to become an entrepreneur. Entrepreneur කෙනෙක් වෙන්න ඕනේ නෑ මේ mindset එක apply කරන්න, right? Always think new, think out of the box, and try to solve the problem in a new way rather than the same existing way, right? And රටක් විදිහට අපිට වැරදුනේ මොකද? වරුදු ගාණක්, right? So many years we try to solve our problems with the same thinking, right? So at least now we can see whether there can be a change by a different thinking, right? Okay, so why we need to challenge the status quo? As I mentioned, everything that we entertain is a result of that. So why we should do this? We should do this to push the entire human race forward, right? අපේ context එකෙන් ගත්තොත් at least to push our country forward, right? Right. So this is actually one of my favorite quotes in Sinhala. මිනිසාගේ පරම යුතුයකම මිනිසාට සේවය කිරීමයි, right? So even as a leader, our ultimate objective is actually to serve others, right? Serve the humanity, right? So if you can build up this entrepreneurial mindset, right? Even though you'll not be an entrepreneur, even though you be an entrepreneur, you'll be able to contribute to this to push the human race forward. So I have been accomplished many things in my life, academically, professionally, in all the aspects. But still, what I'm most happy about is the other people talking about myself, right? Because of actually the positive impact that I made in their lives, right? We all are people actually come to this world and stay here about, some years and leave this world, right? But we still talk about some people. Even during this session, we talked about some people who actually left the world, but we are still talking about them. Why is that? Because they have marked their footprint on earth with their mindset, this entrepreneurial mindset, right? So this mindset is actually needed. It's a great way to mark your footprint on earth, to make a positive impact on others' life. And it all depends on one thing, that what will you do, right? What will you do to challenge the status quo with this mindset, right? So even if for leadership, this is actually the mindset that I have as a leader, and the success behind my story as well. So it's same to you, right? If you can develop this kind of a mindset, you will be able to achieve success in whether you follow any kind of path in your life, right? So thank you so much. If you have questions, maybe related to this session, or maybe related to entrepreneurship, or maybe related to leadership, or maybe related to my journey, you may ask now.
Thank you, Mr. Dhanika Perera. We sincerely appreciate you taking the time to share insights on entrepreneurship, breaking free from the status quo, thinking beyond conventional boundaries, and embracing innovation. The words on thinking differently, seeking new opportunities, and having the courage to take bold steps truly resonated with us. As Steve Jobs once said, the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do so. Your session reminded us why challenging norms is essential, not just for success, but for meaningful impact. And we will now move on to the Q&A segment. Please feel free to drop your questions in the chat or unmute yourself to ask directly.
Okay, some of you may have provided feedback about the session. Thank you so much. It was a great pleasure for me to inspire you all, if you were inspired. If you have any questions, I would happy to take.
So yes, we've got some questions now. So one of which is, can you describe a moment in your leadership journey where you felt completely out of comfort zone, and how exactly did you overcome it?
Okay, so rather than the leadership, okay, when it comes to leadership, one of the moments that I actually felt out of control was uh, when my followers, when my team. Now, as a leader, I lead two aspects. One thing is I lead actually, due to my products and services, I lead all of our users, all of our fans. But in a small or day-to-day basis, I lead actually my team, right? So I'm so bonded with my team. We have a great bond as a team, as a family, right? So one of the situations that I got really challengeful was when people actually start migrating because of the previous economic conditions, right? So it was a very challenging situation, because we had a very low employee turnover rate, right? If someone actually comes to work with me, they hardly goes if they don't have a very exceptional problem or exceptional life matters. So that it was very challengeful, but sometimes you have to accept the reality, right? So that the moment I had to accept the reality, but while accepting the reality, I attempted from my part, from what I have control of, right? Now, economic condition is something that I am out of control. I can't control it. It's the country situation. But when it comes to the what I can provide to satisfy them and to keep them with me, I tried many attempts, like offering them interest-free loans, offering them housing loans with very minimal interest, and offering them a free transport service to reduce their transport costs, right? Likewise, I actually did many things from my what I have control, so that even though few migrated, which I couldn't stop, I could actually keep many of the team members with me, right? because of the things I did. So it matters actually both things. Sometimes you don't have to panic about what is not in your control, but accept the reality, right? But in terms of reality, if you for what you have the control, you have to actually work on it. Otherwise, the මුකුත්ම නොකර ඉඳලා කට්ටියට යන්න දීලා ඔහේ බලන් හිටියනම් මීට වැඩිය සෑහෙන ගොඩක් අතර මේ සිටුේෂන් එකේදී මයිග්‍රේට් වෙන්න තිබ්බා, right? But because of what I did within my control, I could keep many of them. So that was actually a situation I recently faced.
Makes sense. It's a space where that generally occurs, I believe.
Yeah.
Right. Moving on to the second question. What is the most unconventional leadership method you've tried, and what was the outcome?
Okay, unconventional means, anyways, my leadership style is a little bit unconventional. So I always try to follow a participative leadership, role, not actually be a boss who actually orders things and try to get it just from others. I always want to actually be a leader, participative leader who actually works with them to drive our common goal, right? Not just actually, instructing them and wait until they do it entirely, but always I try to involve with them, I try to engage with them, I try to work with them and to drive it as a leader rather than a boss.
Okay. Makes sense. And as for the last and final question, how do you handle movements of self-doubt as a leader? And how do you stay authentic when you're not feeling confident?
Yeah, always moments of doubt, what I see, uh, I try to think about all the options that I have. Right now, if I am doubtful about what should be the decision that I have to take, right? So I always actually analyze or deeply think about all the options that I can choose, and then dig down into the pros and cons, right? Pluses and minuses of each of these options, right? And through that I choose the best option that I can go. And even when I go for that best option, I always think what is the the worst case that can happen by choosing this option, right? So that when I plan to face the worst case as well, I always keep a plan B or a backup plan also, thinking about the best option, and even by choosing the best option, what can be the worst thing happen by choosing that option, so that I will be ready for that worst case as well, right? So that is how I act in doubtful situations. And what is the latter part? Authentic, right? So I always try to maintain a uh, you know, real life as it is, right? So most of the time, when it comes to a professional life, most of the time people, wear a mask and act a different role when it comes to your professional life, no, right? And සමහර තැන්වලට ගියාම අර ගෙදර ඉන්න මිනිස්සු නෙමෙයි වැඩ කරන තැන ඉන්නේ. It's a totally different person. It's actually not their real self, right? It's actually a somewhat pretended persona that they maintain for their professional life. So instead of actually doing that, I also want to keep my real life as my professional life, as my social media life, as my family life, as my, right now I'm also on TikTok for target the Gen Zs. Even in TikToks, actually, there's no action, not manipulated or artificially created stuff. It's actually my real life, right? So I enjoy actually living my real life in all the roles that I play, so that I'll naturally be authentic. People don't have to dig down and see whether this is actually the real person, because this is really me, right? That is what I follow. I think you are mute, Shari.
Sorry. Thank you to our audience for thoughtful questions and to our speaker, Mr. Dhanika, for the insightful answers. So moving on to the token of appreciation. Thank you. And for us to continue this journey of Road to Ignite, we would appreciate it if you could fill the feedback form sent on the chat. Let us know your thoughts on today's session and how we can improve going forward.
Okay, thank you so much then. Good evening. Good night.
And to officially conclude today's session, I invite Let's Talk Project Secretary Nishara Fernando to deliver the vote of thanks. Over to you, Nishara.
Thank you, Sharon. Well, what a truly inspiring session this has been. Before we wrap up, I'd like to take a moment to express my deepest gratitude to those who made today possible. First and foremost, a heartfelt thank you to our esteemed speaker, Mr. Dhanika Perera, the visionary founder and the CEO of Bhasha Lanka Private Limited. Sir, your journey as an innovator and an entrepreneur has been truly remarkable. The insights you shared today on resilience, technology, and the power of digital transformation have been incredibly valuable to all of us. Your story on perseverance and passion will no doubt inspire us to push our boundaries and strive for excellence in our own careers. Thank you, sir, for taking the time despite your busy schedule to be with us here today. To all the participants who joined us, thank you for your presence and engagement. Your enthusiasm drives the success of our events, and we are grateful for such a supportive community. A special thank you to our technical partner, the SLTC IEEE Student Branch, for your invaluable support in ensuring the smooth execution of this event. I would also like to extend my heartfelt appreciation to the Let's Talk Organizing Committee for your dedication and hard work in bringing this event to life. As we move forward, I'm excited to share that our Road to Ignite Leadership Talk series will continue this month, where we will bring yet another distinguished leader to share their journey and insights. Until then, thank you once again to everyone who made today possible. I hope this session has left you feeling inspired and motivated. Now let me hand back to our moderator, Sharon, to officially close this session. Over to you, Sharon.
Thank you, Nishara. And before we wrap up the evening, I would like to ask everyone to turn on their cameras to capture this special occasion. Thank you, everyone. And that brings us to the end of yet another inspiring session in the Road to Ignite Leadership Talk series. A huge thank you to our esteemed speaker, Mr. Dhanika Perera, for his time and wisdom. Special thanks to our organizing team and everyone behind the scenes who made this session a success. And most importantly, thank you to all of you for being here. Keep the flames of leadership ignited, and we look forward to seeing you in the next session. This is Sharin Jivendra signing out.